we started. I hope we started. Am I talking? This is May 5th, 1993, and we're going to interview Mom about family questions. Okay, and David, you can chime in whenever you want, but you have to be loud. David, I want you to come over here and look and make sure my wheels are turning. All right.
God. Boy, that's
The
a
ones
big
in my
order.
head.
That's a big
Over
order.
here. All right, Mom.
Okay.
Let's start with Grandma Mac's family. Tell me everything you know about her dad, name and everything.
About her dad.
I don't know if your wheels are turning or not. The counter's moving.
Oh, then that's okay.
Okay. My mom's dad, my grandfather's name was Samuel Kendrick Lewis. Can you hear me? Is that loud enough?
That's good.
Okay. And he was, I think, born in Tennessee and came to Texas as a young man and settled in East Texas around St. Augustine, and later on moved to the Hill Country where he settled down and eventually married my grandma.
Do you know anything about his brothers or sisters or parents?
Not really. All I know, I did meet a couple of his brothers and maybe one or two of his sisters when I was much younger. But there was an Uncle Rob, and I think an Uncle Charlie, Uncle Jimmy, and those are the only three that I really remember their names. Anyway, he was a real big man. He was probably 6'2", 6'3", or whatever. Had black curly hair, and very loud. Loved to tease kids, make them mad, big tease, and don't really remember a whole lot about him when I was younger, because when I was around 9 he had a stroke, and then after that he was bedridden until he died, and he died on my senior day outing, so I never did know anything about him after that, because he really didn't know much about anything. But anyway, he was a lot of fun. And a very strict disciplinarian from what Mom said, from what Aunt Nick said. Okay.
And about your grandmother, Laura?
Grandmother. Okay, he was about 12 years older than grandmother. And he married Grandma in Texas somewhere, I think in maybe in Burnett County, where they settled. And they lived there.
At the farm?
No, that's around Burnett, Texas, Marble Falls, Spicewood, up in that area around where the lakes are now. And his father had some land and apparently had given him some, or either he lived on his father's land, I'm not sure which. But anyway, he was a farmer and a rancher. And raised cows and all that good stuff. And Grandma was real cute, very petite, I understand, but when I knew her she was old. She was already old. I remember as an old lady wearing long dresses, very short.
Wearing like long country dresses?
Yeah.
Farm dresses?
Yeah, very quiet. She didn't do anything in the kitchen. She didn't do any housework or anything when I knew her, because Aunt Nick was there to do it, and whenever there was company, they all did it, and she was already, we got a nut over here making faces. And she would just sit around and be Grandma. Be the matriarch of the family.
What was her personality like?
She was very, very intelligent. My dad thought she was super, super intelligent. She learned to play bridge very quickly. She had no formal education whatsoever. She was super at algebra, trig, anything that had to do with math. She could figure all these things in her head. Who knows how? She never did go to school.
Did you know when she was born or when she died?
No, when she died, she was, I think, 75 or 76 when she died. She had a heart attack one morning and died that afternoon in her sleep. And that was it was in 42, I think, because I was a young teenager. And
So she died before your grandfather?
She died about maybe 4 years, 3 or 4 years.
At the time, did they live at the farm?
She died at the farm.
Tell us about when they went in the stage, or in the wagon train.
Oh, I'll tell you what I know about it. You probably know more about that than I do from Grandma. They decided they would go to New Mexico. Grandpa and his family and a couple of his brothers and their families. They were going to the Roswell, Artesia area of New Mexico to homestead. So, I have no idea how many families were in this wagon train, but anyway, they left, and it took them, I'm sure, what do you need, 2 or 3 months?
This. Just want to check something. Keep going.
2 or 3 months, I'm sure, to make the trip. And a couple of babies died along the way and were buried. And they were attacked by Indians. And one time, robbers ran through their camp. I guess Mom thought to steal horses. And they had fights with guns. They were shooting them. And they finally got out there, and Grandpa didn't like it and left within 2 or 3 days. Came back, but his brother, this Uncle Rob, I think was his name, Robert, stayed, and he and his family did homestead.
And about how old was our grandma when this happened?
She must have been real young, maybe 9,
Yeah.
maybe 10, because it was around 1900 when they did this.
Oh, really?
Was that the time when the picture was taken about them?
Apparently, I would guess when they got back.
Oh, really?
I would guess.
Now, when hadn't they sold everything they owned to
That's
go?
what I understand. And then when they came back, they had nothing
Yeah.
and had to start all over again.
And wasn't at some point, didn't their house burn down?
Their house burned before they moved to the farm. Their house burned when they lived in Spicewood, and it started at that time.
This was
kitchen,
after the trip out to New Mexico.
I don't know about that, probably. And the kitchen apparently started in the fire, which was in a basement room. And the next day, Mom said, was laundry day, wash day, and everybody's clothes were down there ready to be washed, and they just left without anything because they were so afraid. So they had no clothes. A family had no idea how many kids they had by then, at least 10, maybe more. And they lived with their relatives until they had.
That's where Grandma chased Aunt Sue up the stairs with the kitchen knife.
Mom was
It was at that house.
Yeah, Mom was the oldest girl, so therefore she was relegated to the kitchen, and she had to do the cooking and all this kind of stuff. And so the younger sisters would aggravate her, so she would get after him, and she chased Aunt Sue up the steps with a butcher knife, plumping after each
That's nice.
foot. Yeah, I know. Gave me a spanking with a butcher knife one time too. Had a thing about knives.
Okay, so let's start with the brothers and sisters. They're Sam and Laura's children. Start with the oldest,
Okay.
what you know about them, and go down.
Okay, the oldest was Arthur, and he had 3 boys, and that was Weldon and Myron and Wayne, whom you know, and they lived in Spicewood, and he was they married. He was a farmer and a rancher all of his life. The next one probably was Uncle Alex, whom I didn't know. I only saw once or twice when you saw him in Round Rock that time. He moved away from home and went to Wyoming and worked on a ranch when he was a kid, and married a lady from out in that area, and he had 4 or 5 children.
A little louder.
Never did meet any of these kids that I know. I have no idea who they are. And Uncle Joe, who was married, and as we talked about earlier, and had a baby, and his wife and child died from malaria, yellow fever, or something. I have no idea from what. But anyway, they died at the same time. He never remarried. I thought he was a bachelor for years and years. Excuse me. And let's see, who else? There were a couple in there. One that died, I think, before my mom was born. Mom was the oldest girl.
And you need to give full names of all these people if you can.
Okay. Arthur Lewis. Joe was Joseph Thomas. Alex is all I know about him. Mother, Frances Blanche.
So she was the 4th living child.
Was she?
Grandma, right?
Apparently, yeah.
3 boys and then her, and then maybe one baby that didn't live in between.
Yeah, could be. I think that was Claude. His name was
No.
Claude.
Claude was a
Later?
Claude died when he was 5.
Oh, okay.
I think this was a girl baby that lived for maybe 2 weeks
Okay.
before her,
Okay.
and they don't know what she called it consumption. I think that she died of.
Okay, so my mom, and then I think Uncle Carl, whose nickname was Jiggs. His name was Carl, as far as I know. I don't know anything else.
And why did he have the nickname? That's another thing we need to get in there.
Jiggs, okay, let's see what happened to him. He never married, and he served in World War I, and he was in France for a while, but he never married, and he was a neat guy. He was a lot of fun. And then I think Alma.
How did he lose his eye?
I don't know. Aunt Nick had told me that it was glaucoma, okay, which I figured that. That's what I thought. And then I mentioned that to her not too long ago, and she said, oh, no, he had lost it as a result of an accident or something. Not really sure what happened. And then next was, after him, was Alma Wallace. And she married
The
John.
living head.
Yes. She married John Wallace. They had 4 kids.
And as of right now, she just turned 100.
She is still living, and she was 100 this past Christmas. I know. She was always going to die when she was 18, Mom said. Never was going to live. Never was going to live. So anyway, she's outliving everybody. Alma, who was next? Probably Uncle Harvey.
Well, tell us a little bit about Alma.
Oh, man. Let's see, Aunt
These
Alma.
are the stories we need.
Okay, what do we need to know? She has a...
She's obnoxious.
She's extremely
selfish,
obnoxious, loud,
righteous,
stingy, holier than thou.
Nice gal.
Yeah. Raised 4 kids. They're the same way except Gene, her son, was not like that. He was great. He was neat. And her 3 daughters are basically the same way she is. She's going to take all her money with her. She's putting straps on top of the hearse right now. She's just a miserable lady. What can I say?
Well,
Okay.
just because they're relatives doesn't mean they're nice.
A miserable old lady. And
Okay.
let's see. Uncle Harvey was wonderful.
He was after Alma.
Yeah, he was wonderful. His name was William Harvey, I believe. And he never married. And he and Uncle Jiggs served in the army together in France. And
when one of them got in trouble and had to dig turreens, is that what they called them?
latrines.
Latrines. When one had to dig, one had to guard the other.
That's right.
And they'd take turns.
That's right. And they were real neat. They were so neat. How he was wonderful. Everybody loved him, kids, and you too.
And we
Dave
loved to play
too.
cards with him.
Yes, he was a big cheat.
He was always cheating
He
us.
always cheated. Excuse me, he loved it. He loved kids more than anything in the world. It was so much fun.
And his nickname?
Poochie, I guess because he was fat. He had a big Poochie stomach.
Yeah.
He was great.
And when did he die?
He died, oh my goodness, at least 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
At least. I'm not sure when.
He died when I was in my first year of college.
Really?
He died the same year that Jane's mom died.
Oh, okay. He was a
He and Sue died when...
great guy. He was a great guy. Okay, let's see if I can remember. I hope I'm not leaving anyone out. Okay, Aunt Helen, possibly after Uncle Poochie. She married a man named Charles Lunsford, who was a real rake.
Yeah.
Was he a handsome guy? He was a real gambler, boozer, womanizer, really good looking.
Yeah.
And he and Aunt Helen lived in Georgetown for a while, and I think that's where their 3 kids were born. 2 of them anyway, Sam and Betty. And they later moved to Center, and he had an insurance agency and a Buick agency for years and years and years. But he was also a big gambler, and when he died, Aunt Helen didn't know all this, but they were super deep in debt.
Really?
So when he died, she ran for the office of district clerk and won. And she was district clerk in Shelby County in Texas for years and years and years. Plus, she still operated and owned the insurance agency, so she paid all of their debts and everything. And their oldest son, Sam, died of polio probably in the 50s, in the 50 epidemic. He didn't die at that time. He got polio and was bedridden and in an iron lung until he died about 7 years later. He had a wife and a baby when he got polio. and the baby was about 4 months old, I guess. And his son today is the neatest kid you ever saw. His name is Mark, and he graduated from UT in Austin, and he is a farrier, which is a person that puts horseshoes on horses. Horseshoer. By choice. He taught school for a while and didn't like it, and so that's what he does. His wife is a school teacher. They look like kind of old hippies. Live out of Austin. Getting tired.
No.
And
I want you to stick on the sisters and brothers, though.
Okay.
Or else we could be here for 85
That's true.
days.
Okay, we got Aunt Helen, Aunt Sue, Aunt Eula must be next. Aunt Eula really used to be a lot of fun. She was my very favorite one for a while. But after that, she got a little bit crazy.
She got kind of nasty.
Yeah. And she was married to Carl Seth. They had one child, Carl Jr. And I used to spend my summers, Betty, Russ, and I spent our summers with her. Simply because Junior had good contacts with good-looking guys. Then he went to high school with. And we loved it. We had so much fun. And that was Aunt Eula. Let's see. She's in a nursing home right now in Round Rock. She's probably close to 90.
Yeah.
And then Aunt Sue, which was wonderful.
My favorite.
Yes. And she married Bert Faust, who was absolutely wonderful. And they had one daughter, Dorothy. And Aunt Sue and Uncle Bert lived with Uncle Harvey at the farm for years and years and years. And raised her grandchildren, Mark and Lynn. And we had so much fun visiting them because she was always up, always happy, never complaining about anything. She's been dead for years.
About when did she died of cancer? About how long ago?
She died, I think, before Poochie
Lee
did.
was about a year old when she died.
Well, I don't remember.
So that was about 16 years ago.
I don't remember.
She died when the Collars were out in Houston.
Yes, when the Collars came to visit us in Houston.
Okay.
Let's see. Who's that? That was Aunt Sue. I guess,
Aunt Ann?
forgot Aunt Ann. Aunt Ann's in there somewhere.
She was
about
older,
right?
right?
She might have been older than, yeah,
Yeah.
than Aunt. Anyway, she was married to Oscar Seth. They lived in a great, big, huge farmhouse, which I just loved to visit. It was great. They had no children.
Now, Aunt Ann and Aunt Eula married the Seth brothers.
Yes, sisters married brothers.
Yes.
Okay. And I always thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were nice. Uncle Oscar was very nice.
And they never had
no,
any children.
They had no children. Okay, and we've already talked about that one, so Uncle Marvin must be next.
And his name was?
His name was Marvin.
And his
Nickname
nickname?
Peanut.
Uh-huh.
He was great. He was really a lot of fun. He married Alif Halton. They had one daughter, Sharon. Haven't seen them in a long time.
Some of our favorite relatives.
Some of our favorite relatives. And let's see, they lived in Austin. And keep on talking.
Yeah.
He worked for the highway department until he retired and lived the good life. And they traveled around whenever they wanted to. And he died about maybe 12 years ago.
Also of cancer.
Yes, also of cancer. And Aunt Marie, she's the baby, still living, nicknamed Nig. Beats me why, don't know.
They say she used to get a good tan.
I see. Marie Lewis, and she married Spencer Jamar, and they were divorced about 15, 16 years ago, I guess. They had no children.
Let's hear the dirt on Spencer.
No. Spencer, well, he had a lot of dirt. I was married and had kids before they would ever let me know that he had ever been in the penitentiary, okay? He killed a guy who was running around with his wife.
His first wife.
His first wife, who was, I guess, a tramp from what I gather.
Oh, man.
Uh-oh.
David, will you get it?
And the wife had been running around with this guy, and he knew it, and they were in a cafe in the little town of Burnett, Texas, and he walked in and saw him, and
He had his gun with him?
yes,
Wow.
had his gun with him. See, we were talking about Spencer,